Call the meeting to order, and Ron, would you call the order with the roll, please?
Rich Gussenberg,
Here.
Sean Kimball, Sarah Stevens Morling, here, Jeff Solon, here, Greg Rosenblatt.
Here.
Chris Dad.
Here.
Megan Rockwell.
Here.
Chuck Neff.
Here.
Dennis Ria. Not yet. Okay. Thank you.
Dennis, I think, is coming.
Okay.
Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public correspondence. Sarah is not here, but her correspondence folder is available to all of you. There are 3 pieces of correspondence in there. Richard Ogurick, thank you, from the Energy Commission, you've seen that. Dominic DeCenzo regarding an energy workshop, and Tucker Deming, also from the Energy Commission. So those are there. Comments from the public?
My name is Walter Gaskin,
Yep.
also on the Energy Committee. I was here last week. I just want to thank you for all the hard work you guys are doing. We do watch the videos, and we appreciate that.
Good.
I guess the Cheshire Energy Commission was established in like '75 after the oil embargo. And we've been doing a lot of things to save the town money and watch how much energy we use. So we think we're worth listening to. I guess last meeting, someone overheard someone on your committee say that you don't have to listen to the Energy Committee, which you don't, but should you? I think you should. You guys spend a lot of time going out, meeting with different groups, building relationships, so I think it would be a healthy relationship with the Energy Commission to help you guys.
Well, we appreciate your input, appreciate your expertise. Obviously, in the end, this group has the responsibility, the fiduciary responsibility to bring the schools in on budget and do the best they can, but always glad to have input from some people with some expertise out there. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Approval of meeting minutes, September 28th, 2023. Do we have a motion?
No, because I was not here yet in the minutes. It says I seconded something.
You might have done it
Motion to approve.
vicariously, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, we
but
still
that
need a
was-
motion to approve.
Okay, I'll move to approve.
Second? Second, okay. Revisions or changes to the minutes?
Yes.
We don't know who did make that second, I guess. Somebody else made the second, but I don't know.
This video,
I could go back and watch it, yeah.
I don't know how important it is, it's just, yeah. Just,
3 hours of my life I could
no, just make a note that
Okay.
Sarah was not there and was not the
Okay,
person
good.
who
Not
seconded it.
Yeah, right.
We know it was seconded by someone.
Okay.
Yeah, Megan wasn't here.
Okay. Oh,
Right.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Any other changes to the minutes? If not, all those in favor? And opposed? And abstained?
Abstain.
Okay. Action on submitted invoices. As we've seen before, we take these one at a time. Do we have that?
Yeah, so we have 7 invoices this month, or this week. Seems like all of the planets aligned because we were able to get ONG, Tecton, and Arcadis in on this meeting. Usually, some of them fall to the next meeting, so.
Okay. Let me see. So now we also have Eagle Environmental.
Eagle is for Norton, which they're not on North End. But yeah, they've started their work. This is for all of the testing and sampling that they did right before the start of school.
All right, do we have a motion to approve $11,310 for Eagle Environmental for the Norton School?
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll
Second?
second.
Seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor? And it's unanimous. Motion to approve pre-construction services for ONG for Norton School for $10,324. Do we have a motion? Chuck, seconded?
I'll second.
Right, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. A motion for $4,705.80 for Arcadis owner's rep for Norton Elementary. Chuck, seconded? Thank you, Greg.
Yep.
Keep it up. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. And a motion again for Norton Elementary for $122,875 for Tecton Architects. Chuck, second? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, for the North End School, $10,324 for ONG Industries for pre-construction services. Do I have a motion? Chuck? Doing great there, keep it up. Second, all right.
Most I moved over
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Motion for $5,174.05 for Arcadis for owner's rep. Chuck?
moved.
All right, there we go. Any discussion? All those in favor? Are you in favor? There you go. Got, what, 5.5 votes. And $239,350 for Tecton Architects for architectural services. Motion? Second? Chris? Any discussion? All those in favor? And unanimous again. There we go. I have no real chairman's report because I was in California the last week taking care of my 2-year-old grandson. There were a couple of meetings, which I'm sure the architects will mention, a couple of community meetings last week and a working group meeting this week. But I'll leave that for them to describe for you. Owner's rep and CM at risk, monthly schedule update, budget update, and open item log, so.
You want me to go first? And let me know if you don't want me to bring all this paperwork, because, 7 pages, and I don't know if that's too much or too little, or.
I love it.
You love it?
You like the.
I like the schedule,
stuff?
Well, I think once we get into construction, we're definitely gonna wanna see. Right now, I don't know how much it changes from meeting to meeting.
Well, what I try to do again is I just try to highlight there's
Yeah,
there's
the
so many
things that are
activities
coming up,
on
the
here.
important.
These are two I have to look at on
Things
the
that-
screen.
Oh, sorry. All right, so as of this moment in time, we're still on schedule with our previous schedules. The data chart has moved slightly. The one thing on page 1 at the bottom, commissioning agent is developing the owner's project requirements. This will dovetail in with what Tecton Architects is gonna talk about, that there was a commissioning kickoff meeting. And so we're anticipating that these owner project requirements will be complete by the end of this month. And the owner project requirements inform the design, so it's pulling from the owner what the actual needs are, with different MEP systems. And then the design will be based on that.
So the fact that at this point in time, we've had continued conversation on the exterior of Norton has not in any way pushed out our schedule for completion of design development?
Not as of this moment in time. We have not discussed that they need extra time at this moment,
Okay.
because the floor plan wasn't changed. The hazardous materials, as you saw, that Eagle had billed, I'm on the middle of page 2. Eagle had billed for what they were, how they surveyed the existing Norton building. So at some point, we're gonna get a final report and a budget from them of what we'll be carrying in our next estimate, which is the design development estimate. So it's just a work in progress, so we have a target of that of around the 3rd of November. That's about the other thing, and then you flip to page 3. So we have additional borings that were gonna be occurring this week, on the 9th and the 10th, I don't know if they got out there. I haven't seen.
I was told they
They-
were going
they
on
were there on
Columbus
Monday.
Day, yeah.
Yeah, they were there on Monday.
And then there will be a final geotech report that's going to be issued that will incorporate that information. So that's an ongoing item. And then the two big activities that we're undergoing right now is design development, again, for both North End and Norton. And as of yet, we're still holding on to the 15th for Norton. I have not heard one way or the other if additional time is needed at this moment in time. And then you flip to the next page, we are now getting into local approvals, and specifically for North End. So traffic study, I know there is a draft report that was just issued very recently. So the draft traffic study wants to be done on or about October 18th, when the submission is gonna be made to PZC, Planning and Zoning Commission. So within the next couple of weeks, we have these documents being submitted. Again, this is specifically for North End for
As soon as
planning
those
and
come
zoning.
out, if I can get a copy and forward it to the committee, I know we have community people who are asking questions
Yeah.
about the traffic.
And I know it's in draft form, so.
So we have a meeting tomorrow. We got it without any time to review it before this meeting, otherwise we would have vetted it.
Yeah, that's all right.
Commonly, when we get work product, we need to have our eyes on it to make sure that there isn't any grave misunderstandings.
Yeah, I just don't want it going before P and Z, and we've never seen it.
Yep.
The 18th will be the final, or is that still gonna be draft?
I think it should be final by then. It will be final by then. In fact, it's supposed to be final. And today is the 11th or 12th, so, it should be final by then. So getting ready to go to PZ, Planning, Zoning, and Inland Wetlands for North End. I believe that Will Walter and Dinesh is planning on targeting the Inland Wetland meeting for November 9th. And then further down on page 5, same activities for Norton. The draft traffic study for Norton and North End both got done together, but when North End actually gets finalized, that one's lagging somewhat, more towards the middle of November before getting ready to go to PZC and Inland Wetland.
Yeah, and just, if I can just speak, because there may be, this is pretty early in the design process to be submitting these applications, so we're going to catch up with Ganesh. We typically do it more towards the end of design development when we have more engineered documents, so there's enough float in the schedule for that regulatory action, and if we need to have a buffer of a month in there, it's okay.
Okay.
Right, and then the rest of the activities, if you switch to 6 and 7, it's just pushed, it's all pushed out. It's just other activities that we don't want to lose track of. And the only item that we'll need to mention, I'll mention, but it's not on the schedule yet, is at some point, we need to decide on doing a geothermal test well. So the project team's gotta talk about it internally first, but typically what happens when you have a geothermal well field, one well wants to get done while we're still designing. It gets incorporated into the well field, so it's not lost money. But it's actually, you have to go purchase that first. So it's another one of these consultant things that we gotta go hire somebody to drill a well and do they call it a conductivity test, where they figure out the thermal properties of the soil. But we haven't vetted it yet internally and what the timing is of that, but eventually that's gonna show up on the schedule as well.
So we wanna know where the geofield lands, you know, where we wanna put it, because typically that well is incorporated into the final well field, so we're not.
It's not like it's sacrificial.
Right,
Right.
right, so we wanna be thoughtful about that, we're getting closer to it, but, you know, we still have plenty of time to do it, I just,
Yeah.
you're right, we need to track it, yeah.
And just reiterating, this is like this is a work in progress, right? Things change, things get added.
Yeah.
And
That well can be done even when the cold weather comes?
I think so,
It's
yeah.
probably
Right?
ideal to do it when it's frozen, really.
That's one per site, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they can do it, yeah.
And any other comments or questions on the schedule? Thank you, Wallace. Very good. This is great. Keep that, please.
Okay, so you also have a handout on the budget. It's a one-page, one-sheet, two-page handout. And the red is the Norton School. So you can see where we have our committed encumbered amounts. And the value that shows is $8,672,000 for the encumbered amounts. And really what that represents is Tecton, O&G, Arcadis, and then of course, you know, on the Norton School now we have Eagle Environmental, and for both the schools we have the commissioning agent, Banza. So those are the committed amounts right now for the project. As we get into the project a little further, then you'll start to see the big expenditures such as the construction. We haven't had any encumbered amounts in the past month because I think the last thing that we encumbered was Eagle Environmental.
Any comments or questions on that?
So the budget's still on track, Rich?
Budget is on track right now. We haven't gone over anything right now.
Right.
Greg, so we're in good shape. And I think that we've committed on the owner's rep and on the design, so, you know, those were all under budget also. The big thing is going to be when we get to construction, to make sure that, you know, we hit that number, which is why we go through those exercises of cost estimates and then value engineering, and then we do it again when we get to the design development, and again when we get to the construction documentation. And as we get through the project, there's gonna be miscellaneous vendors that we're gonna need to pick up, such as Laura mentioned, that we're gonna need to do some well drilling. We can throw those under the construction budget, but right now, you know, they'll probably be tracked as just vendors, consultants, engineering, that type of thing.
So we have like other consultants, we have.
Yeah, we have plenty of things in here for instance, testing and inspections, environmental consultant, other consultants, the builder's risk policy, so on and so forth. So,
Okay.
yeah, same is true for, if you flip over on the north end, same thing. The only difference there is that we don't have anything for environmental, because we don't have an existing building. But,
Speaking of.
as a segue, so in the phase one environmental assessment that was performed by the town for the Castertano property and then the smaller piece of property, there were some areas of concern that were flagged. And so we shared that information with Eagle Environmental, and we asked them to give us a proposal to address those, and that would be addressed with a phase two survey. What Eagle is proposing is a limited phase two survey, because they don't think that a full-blown is necessary. So they did provide a proposal. I think that went out in
I
emails.
forwarded that to you, I don't know
Yeah.
if that, we don't have that.
No, I didn't copy, I didn't.
I forwarded that to you electronically.
But, so, and if anyone wants to see this, I can pass it around. But Eagle Environmental proposed to address those areas of concern. They'll go out, they're gonna test the soil, and then they will provide a report on their findings.
And the cost was $14,730.
Yes, and that's that's not a lump sum, because those are tests based on a certain amount of sampling that's gonna be performed, so it could be less than that.
This is above and beyond what we've already contracted with them for?
This is North End.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't contract for anything for them.
We didn't, yeah, we didn't pursue anything on the north end because there was no building there, so we didn't think that we needed anything. When we dug into the phase one assessment, we realized there were areas concerned that needed to be addressed.
My bad,
No.
couldn't understand why we were getting a proposal for a phase two when they were on contract. And
Yeah.
it should have been phase two, I didn't realize, I
So-
forgot.
So, no, but, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that because they do have phase two assessment in the north one.
Right.
So that's included in the
Why
budget.
it jumped out at
And they're
me, so.
they are performing that. So they've grabbed some soil samples there and they're gonna do the testing.
Thank you, that's my bad for forgetting.
Yeah. Any other questions on this? If not, then we get a motion to approve $14,730 for Eagle Environmental Incorporating for phase two assessment for the North End School.
So moved.
Second? Any other conversation, discussion, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous.
Okay, next item is the open item block. So, pass that around, it's the big sheet that everybody has. And it's a little smaller than it was at the last meeting. And what we've done is we've rolled up some of those open items as closed. And we discussed this as a project team. A lot of those items had to do with things like the generator, the UPS system, you know, what type of circuits were gonna be included. And those are the kinds of things that we're gonna track as the project team when we have our Monday meetings, so that we can make sure that, you know, those items are being incorporated in the design. So we close those, but if anybody's interested, those logs are up on the Google Docs. We send them to Jeff Solon, and then he puts them up there. So there's a PDF, which you're really not gonna be able to unroll, but then there is the Excel sheet. You can unroll those and see what's hidden, what's closed, and you know, anything else that you needed to see that is not in plain view. So the items that are still open are the ones that are on the sheet here. And I think, you know, Richie had sent these around and said if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I didn't want to go item by item as we started to do last time. We got too bogged down. What I want to do each meeting is to put it out in front of people and then take a look. And if there are questions on particular items, or we're ready to close or make decisions on particular items, and I'm looking specifically right now at the gym floors.
So,
'cause I
Dr.
think-
Sullivan has
Yeah.
made a decision to go with wood at both.
Okay. Recommendation to have wood floors for both schools. I would like the committee to take a vote on that because there is a financial implication for that. As I understand it right now, the estimates that were done by O&G already included wood floors. The estimates that were done by Tecton had wood floor in one building and a poured floor in the other. So we're assuming that it is gonna be about 20,000 more on the Tecton field. I know I spoke with Jeff just yesterday. He said he had done fairly extensive, and I know Vinnie, you were part of this, communication with PE people from the school district, from around the state, and that it came back, the vast majority said preferred the wooden floors. I've been saying that more from the fact that I think the community over time will be able to use that facility much more and appreciate it much more with a wood floor than putting something else down that may not work as well.
The only thing I'll add to that is we did do a site visit to see one of the newer floors that were installed in an elementary school in Guilford, and although it was very nice and it might work, I think the time-tested wood floor is the preference at this point, so that is a decision.
All right, we have a motion to approve change to wood floors
On
on both
both,
buildings,
yes.
correct?
Motion.
Second? Second? Any discussion?
I think being consistent is good, having the same sort of finish at both schools is a good idea.
Well, I felt that too. I know there was some comment one time about maybe doing one of each, but I think that people in the community are gonna look very closely at these two buildings. Wanna make sure that they are approximately the same. Other comments? If not, all those in favor? There you go. Decision made, you can take that off the open lot.
Yep.
So Rich, when you're reviewing this on the Mondays, and there's a question, whatever it may be, and that group makes a decision, does that get added in some detail as to, you know?
Yeah, when I close this out, I'll have comments in there so that you'll actually be able to see those comments. So for instance, Vin had provided a memo on, you know, what the school department wanted to see on backup for the generator and for the UPS, and so I think that kind of information is gonna get incorporated into the design.
Any other items on here that people wanted to discuss? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you. Drum roll, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. You have a packet that summarizes the meetings that we've been holding, some of our ongoing items. We can circle back on this later. But what we wanted to do is go through a couple of items, pretty simple agenda, but some pretty major things. Building systems, MEP option follow-up. There was a request, we had a lot of discussion about the hybrid geothermal for Norton. There was a request for Kohler Ronan to investigate this for the north end. There was also some comments related from the Energy Commission that I think Craig will be able to address today during his presentation. But for now, Craig, I have your slides.
Sure. Thank you. All right, so basically, what I'm gonna show you, start with everything that's pretty much the same. I didn't change any of the discount rates, any of the inflation rates. I kept everything the same. The only thing I added is I added the maintenance cost and the replacement cost into the life cycle. And I used a 2.5% inflation rate for maintenance costs over the life and 5% for equipment. The reason I did 5% is right now everything is going up exponentially on everything as far as equipment is concerned, so I kept it consistent with current trends. Now, I'm also gonna make a statement. I projected out to 50 years. This is no way can be construed as accurate to 50 years. It's based on today's assumption. Everybody has to be aware of that. Times change, things change, inflation changes, interest rate changes, technology change, everything changes. So this is supposed to be used as a comparative tool based on a set of values set down under today's conditions. Everybody should be aware of that. Okay, because things change. What I did 5 years ago, it's completely different today. Okay, next. So if you look at it, I changed this up a little bit too, got rid of the EUI and stuff, and just added the cost, the maintenance cost, and everything that we put in for the same option. These did not change. These are the same things we talked about 2 weeks ago. What I did do is I added the actual initial cost that came from the estimate prepared, the reconciled estimate prepared by our estimator PAX and O&G. That's what these values are represent. Before I just had a base and these are the differentials. So these are the actual true values that are currently in the estimate. Predicted utility costs didn't change. These were, predicted costs, a question came up. These were generated using IES software based on the efficiency of the equipment. So these were not just made with a spreadsheet. These were made using a software-based program with consistent values across all schools. We're not into the schedules that the OPR is going to get us, any of that kind of stuff. These are just a typical school. This is what it is. These will go up or down depending on what the actual OPR that Van Zel is preparing in our meetings as we get into schedules, how we're going to use the building, how much summertime usage. This will go up or down. This, again, everything is in here is run on the same level playing field, so it's a comparison. Don't lose sight of that. Maintenance costs, again, some of these appear maybe high. I talked to a few contractors, control contractors. You know, when you do a maintenance contract for control, the first few years it's less, but as the control system gets older and older, the cost of maintenance go up. So I'm a little higher on the front and compared it out over the whole thing to kind of average it out. So that's where you see, these things all change. I took the equipment for every single piece was consistent. If I had 2 units that had filter change in here and I went to 4, and the filters cost, I kept the same cost per quantity of filters, keep everything consistent. These all move together, so if I change one, I'll change the others. These could be on the high side, doesn't matter though, they're all readily in comparison. That's the real key again, they're relative. So I don't want everybody to know it's gonna cost me $64,000 to maintain the school without going out to actual contractors. This is my best guess using what ASHRAE says for maintenance, what I talk to contractors, and I looked up filter prices and 4 times a year and things like that. That's what generates this. And then we come down to the end where the net present value of the life cycles actually come into play. As we talked last time, for Norton School, the hybrid approach, geothermal and air source heat pump, still worked out to be the best value after I added all these things in for 50 years. I will point out this number here in parentheses. The reason there's a smaller number here under, this is if we take advantage, or the town takes advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act. There is up to a 40% rebate potential available for geothermal projects. So I took advantage of that in the life cycle cost by putting that in. These do not, the other options do not have that ability to take that benefit. So there is an option. One thing though, don't get all excited, because yes, you can get money back, but you have to front the money before you get it back. So you're still on the hook for 100% of the cost before the system is proven out before you can get it in sync. So you don't reap this until you actually finish the job, so you have to come up with the money to support it.
So it would have no impact on us in terms of budgeting and building our building.
Zero.
But the town would see some money coming back to that.
In the future, after the project's complete.
Yeah, after.
That's the same thing for utility incentives. You don't get any money until the project is validated. Then you get, the town will receive the check for the incentives that were available at that
Because
particular
we're
time.
still working under the same constraints.
That is correct. You have to pay out 100% before you get anything back.
Okay.
Okay?
What about the state reimbursement? Which do they reimburse? Do they look at it and say, hey, you're getting a rebate and do?
You know, I don't have an answer to that. The state's even looking, now the state was, same thing with the incentive rebates for utility company, they were gonna deduct that from your reimbursement. This being relatively new, because this could be $5 million. If they take that off your reimbursement, that's even a bigger penalty you would pay. But I don't have an answer to that. I don't know if we've given that.
Yeah, even with just the Eversource rebates, I think they've been, at the meetings, the PCR meetings, basically saying that they are not gonna deduct that from.
That's great. This is new though, so if they've looked at this
Yeah,
now,
the
that'd be
the
great.
issue becomes that you don't see this money until well
That's
after the
correct.
project's completed.
How could they take it off if it has to be
Yeah.
proven they don't know what the value is?
Yeah, because you gotta pay the money,
I'm
that's
not gonna
correct.
guess.
Yeah, their position has changed a bit with some of these programs that are out there. We typically, a while ago in projects past, it would be if you were purchasing a piece of technology equipment that is on state contract, but you're buying it from another consortium, say like Michigan has one that has a better rate than Connecticut's, that deduction, they would offset your reimbursement for it. But this is a completely different animal, and we'll make sure that we address it with our PM at DDR.
Next slide. So this is the same graphic side for energy. It's all geothermal, so your best energy savings compared to your hybrid, then your boiler chiller, and then this is kind of a combination of the lowest fossil fuel, but still an air source type approach. That piece didn't change. So I put the two graphs side by side of, again, this should be 50, not 20. This is a net present, a 50-year present value life cycle of the options I presented. This is without the IRA reduction incentives. This is with, and you see the difference. Naturally, this is just the delta taken right off the top, so that's your savings and your present work, because you're getting $5 million back from the government as a direct pay type thing with that. But this just kind of graphically shows the difference between the two in 50 years. But you can see, this option is still slightly better. This one, the geothermal, actually now when I put everything in, when you project it out 50 years, this has, the 50-year has one equipment replacement. At year 50, there'd be a second equipment replacement, but it's really not necessary to bring that forward because we're at the end of the life cycle. And even going out much more than this, the reason this works in the benefit of geothermal wells, because in 50 years, you don't have to do anything with it. That source still is maintained, but other things you're paying more money, and your net present value is not good. So these now become a better option when you look at it. Now for North End, slightly different. The all geothermal actually worked out to be the best approach. This should have been red source, and not the hybrid. It's a $500,000 difference in between the two. Again, applying the same thing. We didn't get as big as savings on North End as we did on Norton with the geothermal for whatever reason, but again, comparing everything, all apples and apples in the same, the all geothermal came out as the better option for net present value. Unfortunately, it's $2.5 million higher than this option, which we don't have $2.5 million to spend to go with an all geothermal option.
North End we do.
No, huh?
North End, we are going all geothermal.
Actually, North End we do have, I'm sorry,
At this
I
point in time.
thought we were still at the point where we're gonna consider going back to the hybrid because we're getting really close.
Well, we may have consideration of that, but at the moment at least, we had planned on all geothermal for
Yep.
the North End and.
That is correct,
hybrid for
that is
the-
correct. I just wanted to see where it came out, but this one, working everything all the same, it came out to be the best value for this
But in
site.
terms of this committee and budgeting, we could choose to go with an option 1B and lower our building costs by $2.5 million.
You could, and maybe put some programs in there to take out to get to it. So yes, that is an opportunity, that's what this tells you. It's not much of a difference. And as we continue to go in and refine the design, these values, these utility costs are gonna get even better. Because as you go through, when you really establish your schedules, everything, our total building EUI is gonna drop. Hence your total energy that you're gonna consume is gonna drop. But it would probably drop in nothing out of 40,000 difference, it'll squeeze a little bit. Just something to consider, but that's great, we're still gonna stay on this line, and,
Well,
we're giving you an option.
if I'm looking at it right, you're gonna save $2.5 million up front if you went with 7F, as Rich is saying, and it's only gonna cost you 600,000 more in the
Over the
long
whole
run.
line.
But we're already getting the 4 million back on the north, so you're still better off by like 3 million.
Yeah, you're, with the two schools together,
Well,
you're
yeah,
better
it's a
off
town.
going with the, yes,
Yeah.
the town's gonna be better off going with the hybrid for both in the long run.
Yeah.
From a day one.
Well, in the long run and in the short run by
Yes,
a
that's
pretty
correct.
good size.
Yeah, you're saving $5 million.
Yeah.
By going with the hybrid option versus the all geothermal option. That's correct, on day one. Yep,
And the systems would be the same at both schools.
they would be
Both hybrid.
consistent, so there's no learning curve, there's no change in systems, that's correct. Yep. And the same thing, the utility costs would be the same as I showed you last time. And then when you put the graphs together, next one, which again, with without the IRA and with the IRA, you see the differential. And even with the IRA, this was a little closer than that. When I took the 40% of the construction, we had a little more spread between the hybrid and the overall geothermal. But again, as you just stated, the two together, you go with both hybrid for both schools, you get the benefit of a larger economy. And if you end up going something like bidding and combining the schools, as was discussed last time, it can be a greater economy potential.
And the bigger spread is because you're just getting that rebate, the 40% or whatever on the geothermal.
So that's what
right?
that is, yeah. Yeah, when you take that.
So you have it, all of it on the farthest left column, second column, you're only getting it on like 60% of the,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
smaller number, you get
60%
40%
of
of a smaller number, that's the difference.
we have less wells that you're getting the geothermal. to
You
correct.
have less wells, so that's what gives us we got $2.2 million
Yeah,
difference between the two alternates. We go full geothermal versus hybrid.
How many wells total for a full geothermal, how many for the?
104 for North End, 88 for Norton.
And how about for the hybrid, how
For
many?
the hybrid was 50 for Norton and
it said 62 on the page.
62, I think,
62.
something like that.
Yeah, so substantial difference.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How comfortable are you with the loads in the gymnasium and the cafeteria with a heat pump can produce heat in the winter months. Because I see the cost differences, and I think that's not a lot, the utility costs, and I just question whether.
Remember, the heat pumps have electric backup in them. So when it gets really cold, the heat pumps we selected are good down to 0 degrees. You get an anomaly where it's below 0 degrees and you're occupying the school, which typically you don't have those days, but you can have it. You may struggle for a few hours of a period until it gets warm enough, and you're gonna have a small hit for a very short period of time. The amount of hours, let's think about it, the amount of hours you're 10 degrees or less is less than 2 hours a year. The amount of hours you're below 0 is less than 24. So it's a very short hour that still works, won't be as efficient, but the one thing I remember, a gym in itself, when you move the volume of air, you can actually heat your gym with 74 or 75 degree discharge air to control the 67 or 68 because of the volume of air going in, and it's not gonna be an issue. You don't need 90 or 100 degree air to do it. So for the very short amount of hours you have, it's not an issue. Under most, the average wintertime temperature is 40 degrees, believe it or not. But the time you have in that low end is not really anything that's going to be a detrimental. And the electric backup is configured in the cost to run already.
The heat pumps will do the gym, the cafeteria, anything else?
Right now, the gym and the cafeteria will do the air source heat pumps, and the DOAS units will be the air source heat pumps. Correct. But see, the air source heat pumps with the DOAS, when you recover all that air, your discharge temperature going into your coil is going to be in the upper 40s to start with. You're not down at 0 degrees, so your heat pump can work without a problem. And you're only raising that temperature up to the mid to upper 60s. You're just introducing neutral air into the building at that point. You're not heating with the DOAS. All the heating is done through the chill beam system in the building. In the gyms, the cafeteria, those are heated by the actual air source heat pumps. We included heat recovery on both of those. At this point for our analysis, which will then give you the benefit of, again, taking that air, heating it up. If there's a cost, we may trick it out, because believe it or not, the amount of time in a gym that the heat recovery actually pays back is not a lot, because most of the time in the gym, you got 30 kids in there. You're not bringing in the full outside air that you're bringing for you have an assembly, so you're not getting the benefit of heat recovery for one of those type of systems. And even what we try to do for a gym, we don't want to size the equipment for 600 people in the gym. Because the only time you're going to run, you're going to oversize equipment. So what we do is we'll allow for temperature relief. So instead of maintaining 72 degrees, you maintain 75, 76 when you got packed offices at the end of the world. But I tell you what, if you don't do it that way, you're going to pay a lot of money for running a unit that's much bigger than it needs to be, where you're only running less than half of it all the time. So that's what you kind of do instead of designing for 72 when you got to assemble it. It's just not good business sense, especially with a packaged equipment. If you had a chill water system and hot water, you can get away with it, but not packaged equipment. Your compressor ends up being too big, a lot of short cycling. Not really recommended from you, it'd be a nightmare over time. So you have a 3-hour function, it goes up a few degrees. It's not really the end of the world.
Great. What happens when you're using it as a warming center? Does that change any of the mathematics for that?
No, not really, because we still have an option too with this. Since we do have water-to-air heat pumps, water-to-water heat pumps with the geothermal, we have the ability to take that water off of there and use that for a coil in the warming center instead of the electric, and take advantage of using the water instead of electricity, and I can just give you a little boost with that instead of electric, so it won't be an issue at all. That's one other option that we can explore instead of using the electric backup as our next. These are 48 or 50 kW heaters, so that adds up quick when you're running more than one.
So Craig, your recommendation is that we go to a hybrid system for both schools?
I think we go hybrid system for both schools. You can get the best bang for economy. You get similar designs for both schools, similar construction for both schools, and the overall savings between the two, I think, is going to go a long way in both of your projects down the road. I just made this one red in here because that happened to be the lowest life cycle cost for North End.
Do we have a motion to,
Yeah, I move to select the MEP 7F. for the north end school.
Second, discussion?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And I know, Craig, you said it's relative, but the replacement cost, what are you assuming is being replaced? Obviously not the wells, because those are expected to last for 50 years.
The wells don't get replaced, so what the replacement cost is basically your equipment. Any compressorized equipment, you're gonna get about 20 to 25 years out of it, okay? Then you're gonna have to replace it. And the fridge is gonna be all different, 25 years, all that. So we're replacing those type of mechanical pipe. The heat pump air handlers would go, because they're 25 years old. Even the water heat pumps would go, and that option, basically all the compressorized equipment is what's gonna be replaced. Chill beams in 25 years really don't need to be replaced, it's just a coil. If you stay on top of cleaning them every year, every other year, it's just, they're gonna last for a long time, because there's no moving parts, right?
Yeah.
But anything that's got compressors in it is gonna have a shelf life between 20 and 25 years.
That makes total sense.
Yep, that's what we figured in here, and O&G was kind enough to give us the prices of these equipment, so these numbers come from right out of the dollars in our estimates that were prepared, so. I think there's one
Other
more slide.
comments or questions?
I think that's
We
it.
have a motion on the floor, all those in favor? Opposed? And it's unanimous. Very good, thank you, Craig.
Okay, thank you, Craig. So the last time we were here, we had quite a bit of discussion, and there's been follow-up communication from other members in the community through the chair regarding site layout, site orientation, and ordering, as well as the exterior appearance. So we have a concept for site plan, as well as two things to go through for exterior. So I'll just start with the site. So this is the site plan that we've all been accustomed to up to this point. North Brooksville Road to the south, building footprint in kind of the center and the back, so that we can build it prior to demolishing the existing building. A lot of comments about the remoteness of this field, as well as approach to the building, etc. So this is not as polished of a site plan, but it's a markup. We have our civil engineer drafting this. A couple of concepts that we want to go over. By shifting the access road to the east rather than going around the building to the north, this allows us, one of the things that kind of bothered us as we were going through our working group meetings is it was very important to have some of this play outside of the cafeteria, and to have a potential access road that children would have to cross, or perhaps route further to the north in order to nest a bit closer to the building. That was just a planning or an organizational issue. By shifting the access road to the east, we're able to bring it along the east portion of the property, which actually allows us to bring the footprint of the building a little bit closer to the northwest corner, still staying outside of the wetlands buffer. But that shift allows us to incorporate a baseball, soccer area much closer to the building. It also allows us to locate, or a prime location to locate our geothermal field a lot closer to the head end, the physical plant of the building. If you recall, organization is still similar. The footprint looks a little bit different because we are working on some modifications. But overall, academic wings to the east, gymnasium here, cafeteria here, kitchen, servery, and utility physical plant in this location. We would still have loading, the loading and service entrance over to the northwest portion of the building.
It does shift to the north and more towards the east. You know, we heard some comments through the community conversations. So
As you're driving up,
yeah, so it
what do you
shifts.
see?
Yeah, it shifts back. It shifts back into the right on the plan a little bit more to increase the buffer to the residential as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's in our coffee talks, in our virtual, or our public forums. We did hear an awful lot of comments at Norton about the proximity of our previously proposed parking area to the property line. So we think this shift allows us to get perhaps a more formal landscape buffer, or at least some space that we can develop some strategies for light trespass, making sure that as we're parking, our headlights aren't going right into our neighbor's backyard. This does utilize a portion of the adjacent property, although not the entire portion of it, but it allows us to have our bus and staff exit onto North Brooksville to the western portion of the site. There was a lot of discussion the last time about maybe just having one access point off of North Brooksville. That's, we think, having a separate vehicle or parent pickup and drop off and bus pickup and drop off access is very important. Otherwise, the orientation of parking is similar. Staff, bus here, parents, visitors here. We will look at what this means for our playscapes, whether or not we have a little bit more room now that we're not negotiating the access road. So we'll have a more formal plan shortly, but I guess we'd like to get the temperature of the committee.
One other piece, when we went to the town council, they also asked us to incorporate more green space towards the front of the building. So I think the baseball, soccer field / geothermal, what happened is we rotated the gym 90 degrees and stacked kind of a cap gym and then admin out the front. So the program stayed relatively the same, but it kind of, the building became a little bit more orthogonal, which was also another comment we heard. But it then creates this nice green space that's in front that we really, I think we had several different conversations relative to where could it be with the town council. We didn't have a good answer at that meeting, but I think this really resolves a lot of the questions
Yeah.
that we've heard.
I think moving that field up next to the school, particularly right next to where the cafeteria is, that's something that the staff had raised extensively, and came up, as you say, with the town council and others. So I think that's a really good move. The field down by North Brooksville, that was always going to be problematic for the school. I like what I see. I think we may even save a little money on the access road. It looks like it's shorter, but I don't know.
Well, I also know Laurel had all of about 90 minutes to look at this before tonight, but we will have an ongoing coordination effort for the overlap of the demolition and the parking. One of the things that this access road does is allow the potential that we can have temporary parking here in this location while we're not going to be able to demolish the building and get all of the parking infrastructure in during the summer of 2026. So there is going to be some overlap between when students are in here and when this is finalized. So bringing this access road around here at least allows the possibility that we may have a little bit more dexterity with how we're handling that piece.
Having the two fields there, I think, is easy for community use. You got parking right there, you've got the two fields right on the sides of the building. So I think that's a good move. I know that, I was in a couple of the meetings like where people have brought up the lighting and things like that for the people to the left there, and having that landscape buffer, I think, is a real positive.
Justin, I don't, forgive me if this is a silly question, but I do see where you have your playscapes, the circle on the top to the left that doesn't have a white line to it, you're within the buffer.
Yeah.
That's no problem for playscape type stuff?
Not a problem for playscape. No. It'll be part of the inland wetlands discussion. We're gonna have to represent that, yes, we are within the buffer, but it's not a permanent structure.
The only thing I'd have you take a look at is between the playscapes and the field, is when you talk to the staff, if you've got kids coming out for recess and you have supervision, and you've got some kids on the playscape, some on the field, you know, is there easy supervisory vision for those?
That's a good point.
Got a question, the way it's laid out, or the way it was laid out before, there was like reasons you had the cafeteria and everything on the, like the west side, I guess. What would be the reason not to flip it, like on an axis of symmetry right now? 'Cause it seems like you would have your utility and everything you need at that access road on the right. You'd have the fields and everything that would be accessible out the cafeteria, the gym, etc. You really wouldn't lose anything by doing that, except you wouldn't be into your wetlands or anything with your parks. You wouldn't have that extra road, and you know, you might not have that issue with the parking and the landscape buffer. Is there a reason not to do that, I guess?
It's the parking field to support those larger spaces then is in front of basically the classrooms. Is the real, so the, you know, this larger field for both faculty, staff, but also community use really wants to live next to those. So, yeah, we did look at, it's a great point, we did look at it, if you flipped it, could you fit, but if you flip it, you kind of box yourself in a little bit of a corner. I suppose you could look at parking over on that side.
Like the lot that's kind of sticking off to the right now, anyhow, to feed that wing, could that not just like extend along that line there, or no? 'Cause it seems like you'd have, like, go back to the proposed site map if you could. I mean, it seems like you have a lot of space over on that corner where the road's just emptying into now anyhow.
Oh, over here, you're saying?
Yeah, kind of where that circle is right there. I mean, that would all just kind of, if it was flipped like that, that would be parking in that area instead of that lot, no? I don't know, it just, I understood why it was the way it was when we had the access road coming around the other way. It just seems like it's a little backwards to me now, but, I mean, it's new, so.
I'm just, I think when we took a look at this volume, and if we had done that, we actually are we can't just mirror it in place. It does shift over this way.
But when you were mirroring it like that, weren't you trying to keep that road on that side? So now if you don't have that road over there, and you could put it on where you're coming through now, you probably could mirror it on like a line down the middle. Maybe, I don't know.
For me, I was always looking at, as you're coming up to the building, that with this, you're looking at the entranceway to the school, you're looking at the cafeteria, gymnasium area, with the classrooms off to the side. If you flipped it, you'd be driving up, looking at the classroom wing, and all those other things would be off to the side. So, I don't know, I mean, I think it's a design choice, I guess there's 6 of one, half dozen of another. I kinda like it the way it is.
I mean, this plan, I'm just thinking through what you're saying, I mean, this could also, there's no reason why this does have to really change, right? I mean, I don't know, we just had concerns about the drive and then the play relationship, that's why we kinda did it. Not that it's gonna be used all the time, it's just.
I like the road where you have it now, I'm
Yeah.
trying to think how it fits with the building now that you moved
Yeah.
it around a little.
So if I understand what I think you're explaining, I think you explained it to me in differently a meeting or two ago, is the orientation of the building, or the placement of the building relative to the property is to allow bus traffic to come in and more easily drop off at a certain spot, and keep that separate, so where the drop-off is to the left, and
Yes,
that's what you're saying, so
Yeah.
that's driving the orientation?
No, no. So bus is still here, parent is still there. What's driving the orientation typically is your larger parking fields are in front of or adjacent to the gyms, cafes, things like that, just because that's typically where you need the most parking.
Oh,
You know, that's, and then I think to your point, the other, you know, admin, nurse, the entry to the building, the program elements that you want at the front of your building are right on axes. That's where you're going to see when you enter. So that's kind of why the orientation of the building's always kind of been this way.
Wasn't there also something to do with all the utilities coming on the left side?
Yeah, ideally the utilities would come up and wrap right into, you know, right into this area in here.
Come up from where the?
Yeah, you gotta be careful because the
They come
building
through
is
the
still
building.
there when we're trying to do all these utilities. So we'll be coming in from the right, I would think, with utilities.
Well, you'd probably be coming up through here, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
I get the, like the offices and stuff on the front,
Sure.
and that's just why I'm saying if you did it on, if it was like a mirror, you're still there. You're not moving off that line essentially.
Yeah, sure.
You'd still have that loop could still be from the, on the right. I think the parking for, you know, teachers, parents, et cetera, it's, I mean,
See,
relative to it.
like if you took this and just flipped it, I mean, the other pinch point is this. So
Yeah,
these two, it gets awfully tough, you know, you would flip it and then slide it likely, you know,
So,
so. Yeah, we looked at this a couple different ways, but I still think the more private side, the classrooms really belong towards the right. I could go either way with that access drive.
I like that it doesn't cut through the play areas, so it's like-
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Justin, do you wanna?
okay. So, you guys wanna talk about exterior, design and, what the building looks like, Ernest, if you want.
He says with a smile.
So again, as a reminder of where we were, where we headed, versus what our previous presentation, you know, the feedback that we've heard, and we went over it at 2 weeks ago, was the desire for a more traditional design to fit in the neighborhood context. So we have two motifs in the same theme to go over. And again, these are the first shot out of the canon from what we heard last week. So, go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, so definitely a different departure. You could see a more traditional colonial style. We try to introduce still some contemporary ideas with it. So this is the driveway, the parent drop off. Immediately you see the front gable and the main entry, the admin to the left. So as we were talking about the site, the admin fronts the bus loop drop off, the gymnasium behind, and then the classroom wing. So let me just start from the right to left. The classroom wings now have a gabled roof. It's hard to tell, but we've got a brick base, so we introduced the brick. The brick here is more like a buff grayish color, so it's got more. It's less of a red brick, more residential in feel. The classroom wings, we've got again the pre-K, K down at the lower level. Differently, we looked at windows that had a more residential feel. So before we had larger windows and some varying narrow windows, some casement windows. So we wanted to maintain a more residential feel, scale down. The roof line with these gables are lower, more residential. So we obviously have some height here within the room. We could expose that gable or keep it flat within that space. We're hoping that beyond this curbside look, that we would switch to flat roofs. So we would want the equity within the classroom. So to have the gable on this side and not on the other side, we would just imagine that those classrooms have flat ceilings. The break in between, so another kind of contemporary insertion there. I think it's a nice kind of juxtaposition with the more kind of colonial themed classroom pods. That is done with maybe like a metal, like a standing seam metal panel. The roofs are like an asphalt shingle. We've got a stair, and then the music room's that front of the building.
And what's the exterior on the music room?
So this is the brick. It's got more like a buff color, a grayish.
That's the same as on the, doesn't look the same, does it?
Yeah, so it's this. You don't see it much here, but we've got some vegetation in front, but there's a brick base. And then this would be a metal panel that mimics like a clapboard siding to it.
The other thing to note, and Jeff had mentioned this when we were talking regarding the site plan, it was a deliberate move to provide a little bit more of a landscape buffer between the curb edge and the building to kind of soften that elevation as well. So while it may not be readily apparent, the building itself is a little bit further away from the curb side than it was before. Sorry.
If you go to the next. So here you see a little bit closer to the entry. We've got a covered canopy. So same as north end, we've got like a wood column structure here. So there we're bringing in some wood, some natural wood. It's covered, so the longevity and the maintenance of that is far easier than exposing it on the facades. We've got a little entry tower at the vestibule just to give that some hierarchy with the music room. And then the admin is right up in front, so the visibility and security and safety is right in front. So we layered the architecture here. So there's a little bit more molding detail, some cornice detail right at the cap of this one-story building. We wanted to have some prominence, so we thought a thicker cornice band might bring in some architecture. There's some brick reveals here that you see, so a little bit more depth in the architecture there. We've got now an entry that you'll see in another rendering with the field house to the left, or the fields to the left. The gymnasium is set back a little bit further, and we just kind of dressed this up with a double gable, just to kind of hide the kind of mass of the gymnasium. So by employing like a double gable, we thought that might at least give it that sense that it's still got a residential feel to it. So here you see the field to the left. That would be the entry. So this would be your side entry. So for weekend use, if you wanted to use the gym on the weekends, you can enter in from here, where we have lockers and toilets and a separate entry for weekend use. So there's a corridor that bisects admin and gymnasium.
And
Again,
where's the cafeteria?
the cafeteria is behind the gymnasium, so we don't have, but this is the utility and servery wing. It's one story, but we pitch the roof, so we create this kind of nice connection there.
So for students that come from the caf to the field, they
They'd
would
be-
just come
they-
right down that
they-
hallway and out?
Yeah, and out that door as well, so.
Beautiful. I love it.
Okay, so there's a derivation of this theme. So here's another,
So this is where we've got now the gymnasium. We employed like another gable just to kind of minimize the mass of the gymnasium beyond with the admin. A little bit more of a contemporary cupola here at the entry. Again, with the music room, this has a more red brick theme to it. music, so same massing. We've got a higher brick base here with the metal panel with the lap siding look, and then our gabled roofs in the entry, still the covered entry here. So this implores a little bit more of that kind of wood look material like we had in the previous scheme. And then you can see the fields off this side with the same canopy entry off to the gymnasium. And then you can see the stair tower, so trying to position this material from admin to the stair tower to the knuckle at the classroom wing. So really just layering in some materials there.
I think that, okay, so there was just a lot of stuff that was thrown at you guys. So I can toggle back to any of these images, but like to hear. Obviously, this is a bit more traditional than the previous schemes that we have shown. The organization, by and large, is maintained the same organization, same approach to the building. So let's hear it.
Well, I'll jump in. I think you guys did a wonderful job trying to take the comments that we gave. I like the first set a little bit more than the second set with the red brick. I think you've just done a really nice job of keeping that colonial look. Little things like the field, the side entrance, things like that, I think just work out really, really well.
So this brick, or the
Yeah.
red brick?
I like this.
This brick, okay.
I like this one better than the second one.
I would agree, I like this one better. One thing, in one iteration, you talked that wall at the top of the field on the utility building, you know, say like an active wall or something where people could write on it, or, I mean, is that still a viable option?
That changed. Yeah, it's a viable option, we would have to find a different spot to put it, yeah.
Oh, it couldn't be that,
This wall here.
that wall right there.
I suppose it could, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Before it was up front, now
Right,
it's
now it's to the back, I just
Yeah,
like that.
before there was three-sided enclosure there.
But I agree, I like this design the best.
Hard to gauge without a floor plan, but I think we got lost in the woods. We're not in the woods and trails anymore, we're in suburbia.
Yeah, that theme seemed to differ from,
Is there a way to have it like look like this, but have the woods and themes
Yes,
feel,
so,
so the wood darker, and then instead of brick, like a darker, like a stone or something? I think this is really beautiful, Ernest. Like this is
we could
really,
certainly
really well
introduce stone in accented areas, like
And-
if it was in the admin wing.
yeah, I agree with Rich, that, to me, from the entrance to the left, that looks acceptable. From the entrance to the right, I would feel like I'm going back to my army days. Looks like a barracks.
I see the, so to keep in the same neighborhood, the classroom wing, now I see the little house at Lock 12. So there's a little house in Lock 12 that's where the museum is. Like that's that house, like a miniature. So I appreciate, I see colonial. That's where I see colonial in that. I think it's beautiful, but I do think we've lost the.
I think you
Because
need, no, go ahead.
Well, that's what excited me. Like we go hiking, I live in that neighborhood, like that whole theme,
Yeah,
excited me. And the outdoor classrooms, and this is her school, so it was that really excited me. So, but I do think this is
Yeah, I think you need to think more craftsman style, not Levittown.
well, it sounded like you wanted to go more colonial from the comments that we
Well,
said.
federal style was, I think, what was given as the example.
Federal style's even further away from woods and trails.
Right.
Is there a way, and what I'm hearing, I'll ask it to you, I'm hearing, from the entrance to the left has a field that it seems like,
Mhm.
and to the right is a little more smooth or sterile, or is there a way to incorporate some of the textural elements that you have in this over onto that side?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to get the massing right and trying to, I think we still have time to really develop it with the details, you know. I would like to still see some of the contemporary details placed into that, because you've got the massing, you've got the proportions, you've got the windows, you know, like there's still a level of detail left to go, and I think that's where a lot of the details start to sink. It starts to remove itself a little bit from the colonial feel once you start looking at some of the details, and you know, and I think it's hard to say you want this in woods and trails when they're contrasting themes, and so I think we could do that on the inside for sure, and how we incorporate it on the outside, it's really got to be something that it's not going to be obvious, because we've got this kind of canvas that we're working with. So how we do it, you know, we'll try to keep working at it with how we introduce the woods and trails.
Do we have any sense of what impact to the budget this plan would have versus the earlier plan?
Substantial,
Substantial?
if I'm being honest.
Oh, yeah, the roofs, I mean, just added all that work with the roofs.
Corner and elevation cost more.
So, it may sound obvious to the people who do it every day, but for us, what are we talking about? It's $500,000, that's $20 million?
I don't know, Chris. Yeah, I mean,
I'm just trying to get order of magnitude.
It's less than 20.
Between half and 20.
Bookended it.
There you go.
yeah, I mean, I think the concern or challenge with trying to get gabled pitched roofs on buildings of this size is one, cost, but two, you know, how do you achieve it in a cost-effective way? So, you know, between the two versions, you can see there was some simplification of some of the masses in an effort to try to get some of the flavor of what folks were asking for. And, you know, I think some of the ornateness, is probably gonna need to be stripped back a little bit or scaled back a little bit. Just to be honest, I mean, this is, we can talk and kind of estimate kind of the differences, but I think there's definitely more costs associated with some of the elements that you see here in this facade.
So what I'm hearing is we're probably near that 10 mark, right? We just had
I don't know.
a little rough on that.
I don't know.
We just saved 2.5.
No, we saved 2.5 on the north.
I'm just saying overall project, we saved 2.5, and now this is, I know they're separate, but I'm just looking at the magnitude.
Totally separate.
I understand that, I'm just saying, we were tight end over already. I can't afford another 10 or 5.
I don't think you're at 10. I mean, we've redesigned the site and the building in 2 weeks. I don't have the cost impact.
I'm expecting, I'm just
I
trying
know,
to think as a committee
I
for us
just
to
don't
say
know.
yes or no.
But I just can't tell you if that's $2 million. I think it's probably closer to half 10 in the two.
What's that in code?
I like that, Justin,
It's probably less than that, but it's not insignificant given where we are now.
Just kind of what I'm trying to understand.
It did go down.
No,
and we were tight on this budget to begin with.
Did the redesign of the floor plan make it more compact?
pretty compact to begin with.
It was, the plan efficiency, it was always there. It probably improved a little bit. I think some of the angles that you saw in the previous plan were massaged a bit to try to simplify them in a way. To do a couple things that we heard that through the working group meetings, but also some of the community conversations. So there's not a lot of, I guess to answer your question in short, like this plan change didn't add square footage. I think the program still is there, the floor plan is essentially the same.
But really, the only extra expense is putting the gable roofs in.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, I mean, I think that's,
And I'm not sure if that's even what my eye is really picking up on. I mean, to the left, I'm actually looking at the lower roof and all that, and I love that. So I don't know if I'm, you know, it's hard to pick out one spice in a meal to say that's what's making the difference. And I don't know if it's the whole package, if you got rid of those gables, I would hate it. You
I
know,
didn't know what changed.
I love the color, I love the textures, I love what we're doing.
I thought it
I love all that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. Yeah.
That's
I love
the
it just like it is.
I mean, I think you've done a wonderful job.
So, I'm wondering if I missed the meeting here. When did the floor plan change? Because I like the old one. So was that
so there was a request to try to free up some area on the site to get more green space in front of the building. So that was from town council, and I'm pretty sure we reported back some of that at the last meeting. And then at the last meeting, we had a discussion relative to the aesthetic, design, the layout, the facade. So that's kind of, we combined the revisions and kind of landed here all together. But overall planimetrically, there's minor modifications to the planimetric layout.
well, all the big spaces moved.
So the gymnasium and the cafeteria, so basically what happened, what you're seeing is this became here because we wanted most of the working group sessions. These folks, we had shown you some options where the cafeteria was starting to sneak further back. So this piece went over here, and more or less this stayed the same, the platform sandwiched between the caf and the gymnasium. So the arrangement, more or less, the juxtaposition of all these three remained the same. This came up here, and that came up there. To make it a little bit longer, to help us take some of the kinks out of the plan, which, there were some comments relative to, does this have to be so, severe as far as the,
But
So the gym's rotated now?
no, gym stays the way it is.
It's just the platform's on like the end line?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
so, how does the platform relate to the cafeteria now?
The proportion of the cafeteria is I would say better. So the proportion of the cafeteria is more like that to the platform now. So it creates a better proportion from a seating arrangement to the platform.
And music moved where?
Music moved adjacent to, well, and so music was over kind of in this bar here.
So where did the media center go?
Media remain in the center of the building, because what happens when you move CAF up here and these things kind of straighten out a little bit, it gives you a little more room in here to put a couple extra spaces, so that's.
Not for nothing, but a floor plan would have been really helpful.
When you straightened out the wings, what did you pivot those off of? Was that like, they straightened out, rotated about like the upper right corner on the top one and the lower right corner on the bottom one?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So that's why you have more, you're saying you have more space in between there?
Yeah, yep.
the courtyard got square.
Yeah, so the courtyard's squared off, but we kept the wide portion, not the short portion.
Right.
Can we get
If
a
I'm
floor
being
plan
honest,
next
I would
time?
say, I don't like the way it looks now compared to what it was before, but I liked it before. And I think the issue was the finishes is what everybody was, you know,
Can you go?
kind of up in arms about as far as it looked too woodsy and didn't fit in, it looked too contemporary, but I mean, if you take the finishes that you have on the one now, with like the brick and, you know, some of the, you know, what looks like the siding,
Sure.
and you went to this, I mean, I still like that. There's a couple things with the windows to fix, but I think we went too far because we had to match it to the other, and it's, I mean, it just looks expensive, to be honest.
So the correspondence that we received from other individuals in the community, it was our impression that pitched roofs were the direction that they wanted to see. So if this committee wants us to go back and look at this with the materials that we showed on, that Ernest just reviewed, we'd be happy to do that. But I guess we need, I guess, definitive direction from this body, because I guess we're getting,
We gotta bring it closer.
we're getting conflicting, I guess, guidance, at least that's the way I'm interpreting it. I don't know, I know we've had some challenges internally, but, what I heard was more traditional, more headed towards, and it very much went headed towards the traditional. And that was through various different avenues of emails and conversations at other public meetings. So if you, we'll do
Well, I gave you
whatever you
input,
would like.
and then Dennis have made some recommendations of some things to look at. I know you got a fairly extensive note from Sylvia from the town
Right.
council.
Yep.
Based on some input that she was getting from various people. So I don't, you know, we've gotta bring some closure to this thing, and we've gotta bring it fairly soon. We can't be hanging this thing out here much longer.
But we also need to be able to afford it, and right now, we could all say that we love that, and then we have to have them put a number to it, and then come back here and do our VM all over again and start pulling things out to find $5 million or whatever number of million it is, which we already had trouble doing to begin with, so that's a big part of it, unfortunately. I mean, to me, it just sounds like, I love the white brick option. I think that's great. I mean, we need to massage it, but I think we're there in my own individual personal opinion. Problem is, we can't do it. We can't afford it. So even if everybody said that's the way to go, who's paying for it? It's just, if it's out of budget, it's out of budget. And that's not even in our hands right now, it's just, it's out of budget, or we gotta cut out. I don't know where we would find a few $1 million of programs to pull out, we had trouble with what we had.
Again, I don't know if that's the number, and if that is the.
I understand, that's why I said the extra has to go around, but I mean, I think we all agree it's not in the thousands or hundreds of thousands, it's more like in the million or millions. Right, and that's what you guess, I know nobody wants to,
Well,
we're trying to look for a commitment,
And,
but.
you know, until we do an estimate, I think you wanna probably take a more conservative approach and look at kind of a worst case scenario and say, you know, if we do have to, if we have to look at some additional costs, then where are we then going to pull out of, right? So, I mean, right now, we're not even at that number. I think, from what I remember, you were at 4.something%.
A little bit over
And I
4.
think you were, guys, almost even, or maybe 1%, but, you know, it was tight to begin with.
Well, and there wasn't much else that we wanted to look at, we pretty much grabbed everything that we could,
Well, that's right.
without cutting program.
And I think that's been the marching orders, right? Don't cut program and really, you know, try to keep the aesthetics as much as you can. Which I think, you know, we're moving in that direction, but sometimes keeping aesthetics or improving on the aesthetic is going to end up increasing the budget, which means that now we're gonna have to find other areas to cut. And that's not gonna be easy.
I mean, it does seem like there's a trade-off aesthetically. When you look at this elevation with all the wood and the overhangs, you compare this to the simplicity of the next version, yet you have the gabled roofs. Now, I don't know how much of a trade-off there was. But there's definitely, clearly an added cost for the slope roofs. And it seems like it's a much simpler elevation compared to that, so there is some trade-offs there.
Sure.
So just be careful if you go to the peaked roof, and then you also wanna be adding more stuff to the outside, cause it's just making it worse as far as features.
I think your biggest costs are gonna be coming in the gable roof. You know, because you're adding volume, and volume costs money, so that's really where the money is.
In the second story of the gable roof, like, what's in the attic? Is it just empty? We're paying for like
You're
empty
gonna have to have
space?
sprinklers in it probably.
Yeah, I think Ernest had mentioned something about maybe going sloped ceilings in the second floor classroom.
I mean, just looking at the two, I don't think there's much of a trade-off in terms of the shape of them, because you got that little section in between the two, call them the two houses there. That's gonna add some complexity that you had a little of before, but not like that. So it's,
Yeah, we still had that knuckle there, in the previous scheme as well.
yeah, but the rest of it, I mean, it's just a matter of a gable on it versus.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back, what do we have for the VE for the gym at North? Wasn't it like $1 million?
UV for the gym.
To go
To go
flat.
flat.
Yeah, it was
I
something,
might
it
have
was
it.
something like that, that
So,
figure.
Gym is like 6,500 square feet, right?
Same size gyms in both schools, right?
Right, I'm just saying, you know, proportionally, cost-wise,
So
you
that's
know,
the,
classroom wings are.
yeah, that would be
you know,
the gym times maybe 3 or 4, right?
$3 million, just, I mean, that is,
For the-
we don't have one.
You have the gym,
If
you have
it's
the
north of
cafe.
one, we're in trouble.
I mean, to your point, there's probably some trade-offs with the simplicity on the facade, for sure.
And
I
you
don't know
can
if
give
there's a
them,
midway point where you keep some of the gables, but eliminate some of the others and go flat roofing areas.
Yeah. So,
I mean, personally, you know, as I said, I love what's there. I understand if we don't have the money to do that, but, I love the field on the side, I like the new placement, so that, you know, you've got that walkway there. The entrance way, I never liked the old entrance, but, I wasn't always in the majority on that, but it was very contemporary looking. All I know is, one way or another, we have to come to closure on this, and we have to do it very soon.
you can also give the appearance of a gable without putting a gable in. I know that's not,
Yeah.
you'll probably lose your license that way.
It's, I mean, it's hard to convince.
Aesthetically, it
them.
works.
I mean, you're experiencing this so three-dimensionally that it's hard to
Right.
kind of fake it. But, yeah, it's been done.
This without the gable, I mean, what's that?
Well, that's what I was wondering, back to the original scheme with the no
Flat
sloped roofs,
Yeah.
what if you just did black and white?
Like
Seems
when
like
you
it's
go,
black
when
and
you go to a
white is
shopping
what they're
plaza,
after.
and you see
Right.
the
Don't say original, previous.
Except better.
Well,
Except
okay,
better.
you're right,
Yeah.
it's previous.
Yeah.
So Jack, that was a 1.1 million
On the gym, right?
flat EPDM on North, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why most of the new schools have flat roofs, if I'm being honest. I completely love this aesthetic, don't get me wrong. I just wanna make sure it's all on the table and we don't say, here's everything, and then, you know, it comes back where there's gonna have to be sacrifices if you want this aesthetic. This is what I was trying to communicate.
That's true.
So you can pick your spots, you know, maybe you just do them like Ernest said on the front. If you like this palette, which is, I think, that's a breakthrough, so we love this palette. I don't think this palette's any different than the one we had on the previous version.
Actually, yes.
So it's really just, to say you can do these gables everywhere on the building, I'm not convinced that we could do that.
You can, you just don't have the money.
Well, the other thing too is we're going with these rooftop units, all these gables just really reduce where we're gonna be able to put equipment as well. In fact, I see those front classrooms, you're not gonna put anything over there. Have to move everything back and come back, which is not an issue, but the more you move the mechanicals from the point source, the more expensive it is.
Will be the equipment for like the short term of how we build it, but also like if we ever went to PV, you're not gonna get nearly as much up
Oh,
there.
no,
You
you're
have,
limited, yeah.
you have like a field.
Yeah,
Justin, can you go to the revised site plan?
Maybe
Thank
covered
you for
parking,
mentioning that.
covered parking.
That's true.
So- One of the things that I think we've been struggling with on Norton is the fact that what you see is basically the classroom wings from the street. Now that the building is more compact, could you turn it counterclockwise, 75 degrees, and then have the large volumes presented to the front, just like the north end is, which would simplify that issue, because then it doesn't matter that the classroom wings are flat, you don't see them.
Well, so what, from the street,
You don't really see them now. from the
so
street.
here's the property line. Here is the area of the classroom, so you're talking about from say here, being able to,
Well, or even in the elevation or the rendering that you presented, I think
yeah, I mean,
Those-
we're taking views from like here, here.
yeah, but those two volumes are maybe a strong word, but they're offensive.
Your
So-
point is by moving the classroom wings so they're not in the front,
By rotating the
you
building,
can put flat roofs on them and,
Yeah, it'd be like north,
yeah.
right,
for sure. Yeah, we had that almost.
And then you could set up the assembly in a similar fashion, because you would have, I guess you'd have admin, gym, cap. Media may still need to live here, but I guess, so you're saying essentially, Dennis, take this and just turn it,
right.
when you do that. And then spend the money on the pitch roofs in the front.
And if you can get more parking with the new layout, that would be good. Where the new existing building is, just trying to save costs there.
Not more parking, just more up.
Yeah, just whatever we can, because I don't see how this, I've gotta figure out something on a temporary basis. Building there.
Okay, so we can look at that. Is everybody in agreement that that's what you wanna see for the next meeting?
Articulate what you're talking, what
Go
exactly.
back to that site plan for a second. So what I heard was, take this, rotate it about, I don't know, 30 degrees, so that this bar is now this way. And then pitch that bar with roofs, come up with a scheme to pitch that bar, much like north where we have gambrel and some other, and some simple gables.
home.
And then everything else in the back is just roofs.
Well, that would work okay.
Yeah.
What would that do to the entrance to the building? If you rotate it, to be a longer walkway in, or?
Oh, I'm not crying.
That looks like a crying
No, it would shift, so the admin bar is like right here.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not crying.
It would shift it over this way, like on this corner.
Right, instead of being, in a line with the
You'd be looking
driveway,
at this
would
corner
be-
of the building. is
would
what
be
you're
like
looking
at an oblique.
Yeah, so when you drive in now, you essentially see that entrance tower element that Ernest had drawn. And then you see that gable, that main gable. So, can you go to the rendering for a second? Maybe there's disconnect. So this is, from my arm to the left is what you'll see as you drive up. That's what you see. This you don't, because there's a bunch of trees all the way around, all the way up to the corner. So so that's what you see now. If you rotate it, you'll see the corner of this. Or no, I'm sorry. You see the other corner. You see this corner here.
That's what you're gonna see when you drive in, essentially.
So, well, I mean, obviously you can change the pitch and pitch roofs and things like that, but, so you'd be looking at kind of the corner of your building if you decided to.
This angle is what we'd be looking at, essentially. You drive in.
More or less. I mean, it'd be a little bit more like that, but yeah. You would obviously have to change the pitches over here.
You still though have substantial costs on
You
these
sticky with a
gabled roofs up here, right?
$1 million.
And that would save you the gables on the classroom one.
You're at $1 million.
Hi.
I think that's more manageable. I mean, if the pitched roofs are the direction that this group wants to head, then that, I don't know, what do you guys think? That's probably a little bit more manageable.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to see it in plan. Bringing it to an oblique angle.
I think financially though, you're still gonna have to look at how to reduce
Yeah.
some of the gables and things that are up there.
I guess,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
we're trading,
candidly, sorry.
Yes,
Dennis.
please.
You know, it feels like it's an awful lot of effort to try and hide
Say that again.
these guys. So I guess my question is, has there been any strategies that we've done so far that do not have it be a barracks, Levittown, or offensive? That, you know, is there a way that we can address those so that we get some comfort level here? Because I think by the time you rotate and are approaching a building at the corner, I think you're starting to lose some of the efficiencies of site approach, site circulation, parking, and entrance to the site. Because, is there, I guess my question, Dennis, to you is there, do you foresee a strategy that gets us over this?
woods and trails.
And I'm not being facetious, but can you describe to me what that means to you?
Smaller components, rather than having two large volumes, break those into smaller components. What I liked about the previous one is that it did that with the building materials and the way that the materials played with each other.
So you like this version?
I'm
Maybe we all
not
like that.
enamored
Didn't we approve
with the materials that we use, but the aesthetics of it is pleasing.
Seriously.
But we've also heard comments elsewhere and in some of our other partners in town that this is too contemporary for the residential neighborhood. We want to see something that's a little bit more colonial in nature. So
I think
Not
one of the,
necessarily colonial in nature, traditional in nature.
yeah, my bad.
You're correct.
Hmm?
My bad with the colonial.
Yeah, I don't think anyone ever specifically said that, although if you drive up Main Street, you look at the buildings right next to the high school, they're peaked roof, colonial type buildings, you know, that is a piece of the town, of the community. So, I mean, you know, I feel sorry for you guys are getting buffeted here and not getting any clear suggestions. I don't know that there's any easy way to draw a closure to this thing, other than, you know, it was suggested that maybe we have a couple of people work with Tecton and over the next 2 weeks and come in with a plan that says, here it is, guys. I mean, we can't keep doing this, and we can't keep pushing them in multiple directions, and that's what we're doing.
Well, Rich, to be honest, I mean, you've helped push them in 3 different directions. We approved the schematic design a month ago, and then they went to a meeting, you guys have these working groups, and we come back and all of a sudden we gotta redesign a new floor plan. That's not on this group. I think we've given pretty good direction. We've changed it, you change every time we see something, we want that, no, not that, but we already had a plan. Like, the plan was already there, we approved it unanimously. I don't know why we're still going back and forth on it.
I don't think we ever approved the exterior design of the building.
We approved the schematic design off of the sketches that they had there.
And we did that for the north end too, and then made substantial changes. It was always an assumption that the exterior was not yet.
We talked about the finishes and everything else when they went through it. And we ended up on it.
Yeah, I think that's the process that architecture goes through design development. So a set of schematic drawings is a concept. A site plan is 95% gel by the time you get to schematic design. To change the site plan 10% into design development is not really very productive. I think that what was asked of Tecton is to look at the previous elevation and make it less urban, at least from my perspective, my words. But in keeping with the theme of what we charged them with, which was, and actually Tecton came up with the words woods and trails. But this to me is not woods and trails. I think we're lost our soul if we approve this one.
I agree. I think the comments about the last one being too contemporary, what I took from that is we didn't like the overhang, you know, it had some various angles in there that, you know, maybe that was what was screaming contemporary, not that we needed to redesign like that whole wing there. I think that's what we had approved as the schematic designs. We wanted to look, you know, something like this with the finishes we can work out. But now we're like totally different from what we had before, which is.
So the driver behind the pitched roofs, I believe we talked about it at the last meeting, but we also received communication and correspondence relative to it. So if you're saying, I just want to make sure, we work first for obviously the building committee, but we need to know if we disregard those comments, or we looked at it, but we, as a committee, I mean, I guess this is your discussion, we definitely looked at it, right? We looked at options to give you the various different look and feel of the building. And some of those were driven by comments outside of this for communications and correspondence. So I guess
They were also part of our public sessions.
Yeah, community conversations.
Or
Yeah.
community conversations.
Is there a way, or if this was our building now and we said, geez, you know, we don't like it, we wanna hire Tecton to try and make this look less urban, what would you do?
I guess you'd have to describe for me what less urban means to you. Do you mean, is it the brick that's giving you the feeling of urban, or is it the
Mhm.
colors, is it the,
Those
is
are
it
my
the shape,
words.
is it the massing?
Yes and yes.
So it's the massing?
No, the massing is fine.
Okay.
I think the brick is probably an issue. The colors are probably an issue.
The color of the brick, or give me a little more on the brick, what do you, too much, too little,
Well, I think there's too much brick.
too much?
And the red, you know, to Ernesto's point earlier, it needs to be more muted.
Yeah, so do you like the gray from the other one?
I'd rather
Sounds
have
like-
like the tan, but yeah. I'll go with gray. I'm not gonna,
So do you think less
That's
brick
not
is
obnoxious.
less urban, is
Hmm?
that? Less brick is less urban to you?
yeah,
You would rather
Yes.
see more of the metal panel?
to be honest with you, I would have gone with this, like an ashlar stone. Because to me, that's wood. I realize that. But you can get CMU veneer
I don't know if you'd like that.
in different sizes, split face.
I don't think that's the aesthetic
Okay.
you would want.
Or the quality?
Yeah, yeah, it's very utilitarian, I don't know if CMU.
That's fair.
But
What about the materials that are on this, the gabled version? Can those be worked into
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
I think like those tones is what everybody likes, that's what we liked about the north end and everything. If you work that into that other version,
So to the previous point about maybe, you know, maybe there's a way in this facade with the materials that we start to break down the proportions a little bit
Yep.
more organized.
I mean, to Laurel's point, if you go back to the last rendering, the simplicity of this was to, you know, obviously the other one was a little bit more complex with our brick, you know, so simplifying some of this was offsetting some of what we're getting here with the gable. So we tried to at least balance it out. And again, that is befitting of a traditional architecture. But, you know, there's no moldings in here, there's no trim, there's no casework there, so it's very reduced down in some ways as well. But we try to capture the proportionality of kind of residential architecture there.
I think when we say residential too, just, again, this is just an electrical guy's interpretation of aesthetics, so take that for what it's worth, but, you know, I've worked on, in my job, residential projects, where you have some buildings with multiple units and stuff, and to see like a line of red brick with then the clapboards above or something like that, to me, it's residential, but it's not like a, you know, cozy, warm, you know, spacious colonial house, or lodgy feel or woodsy feel you're looking for. It's more like a compact, more, I don't know, institutional's the word, but more of a partner building rather than house. You know,
Well,
the lines-
we're certainly dealing with taller floor-to-floor heights, it's also the, you know.
I'm just saying though, that take what you,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if we were looking at the previous iteration, you know, it's the question of,
So can I, oh, sorry, you were gonna say something.
Oh, I was saying, so the last time you were here, Ernest had mentioned what the specific material was for the clapboard, so then I Googled it and showed it to Chuck, and it's not so brown, the color, it's like a green, is what it showed up, the clapboard, like on my computer when I Googled it.
You're talking about the wood paneling?
Not the paneling, the other, the metal.
The metal.
Like it came off more like a greenish on my,
Yeah, we
Computer,
inserted
so
the
that-
green here, but this was more like a tannish beigey color.
cause I Googled the
This is-
specific color that you had mentioned.
Yeah, which is, this is where we
Oh,
introduced some
just
green,
there.
just there.
Oh, okay.
Which is green, yeah. It's
Okay, alright, I
antique
thought maybe
patina.
if like the whole thing was, cause then it is like a tree line then, right? So if it was all,
Yeah, that's where the accent
That's
with
what I
the
thought you
antique
were.
patina came in.
yeah,
But those panels do make it a more contemporary
Yeah, for
looking
sure,
building. The entranceway is very contemporary.
for sure.
Good luck.
thanks. Well, it's better
Again,
than the
that
last
was the
meeting where she ended
theme
up in
with
the hospital the next
tree
day
houses
for
and
16
woods
hours
and
so,
trails, and so
with a
we,
viral infection.
this is what we were
Yeah,
operating.
this is our
that-
version
that
of
theme.
Woods and Trails.
Yeah, so can I summarize what I'm hearing, because we need to bring this to a close, is that although I absolutely love that, we can't go in that direction. We
Is
can't
it
pay-
possible on
can't
this
pay
one
all
to
the
get a
people.
closer estimate how much more it is? Because I mean, I personally find this much more appealing than the other design. But just how much extra it would be,
Well,
you know, back of the napkin estimate.
if we were to assume that it was $1 million, which I don't think it is, because I think
The
Chuck
gym
was-
was just $1 million.
Chuck was able to find what the VE was, well, so did Craig, that it was like 1 million, 1.3 million. So that was just for like one part of, that was the gymnasium. So if you take that and multiply it by 3, right, because you've got gables right
More
there.
than three.
Yeah, 3, 4, right, but let's assume that, you know, we're gonna take a more liberal approach and say it's not 5 million, it's 3 million. Even at $3 million, Greg, that's more than we can bear, and we would have to find $3 million in savings somewhere else. And it wouldn't be in the plan, well, I guess it would be in the plan, it would have to be in the square footage, because we've looked at every other option to VE.
We would have to make substantial changes to the
Yeah,
program.
we're very economical
To get
with the
3 million.
mechanical design right now, that you're not gonna get anything else out of that.
And I don't know that we could even find 3 million by cutting design. I mean,
It would have to be square footage, really,
substantial,
substantial.
and I
Yeah.
don't think we wanna do that.
So, I mean, even on a best case scenario, and $3 million, I think is a liberal number, because I feel it's more like 5. That, you know, you're still trying to find areas to cut.
So bottom line is,
This is
that,
out, right?
that plan can't go. I'm hearing from people that they would like to back off to the last plan, but make it less contemporary looking by looking at the finishes on the outside, the nature of maybe the windows, you know, some things like that, so that we can bring it in and make it a little more traditional looking, but basically that design. Is that what I'm hearing around the room?
That's where I'm at.
Agree.
Chris?
I can't remember the last time I drove into a school and commented on the aesthetics, so.
Okay.
I agree, we want it to be nice, but, sure. Right?
You should have led with that.
You're going through all the wrong schools, Chris.
Right?
Yeah, fine, that's good.
So, does that give you direction as to what,
You mind if we just park it for
you
For
do
a
whatever
couple-
you need to do, yeah?
just a couple more minutes, I promise. So, some of the other comments that we heard was that I don't think that we have the left-hand portion, but we heard right-hand side is not talking to the left-hand side. Mr. Chairman, you've commented on this portion. So I guess while we're here,
Yeah.
is there any other consensus from the building committee about what else we should
Yeah,
be?
and look for consensus, because obviously I'm not in the same place as some other people.
I love the canopies on the white building design.
You like
Expensive gate.
a little bit more restrained
I like that.
canopy?
To me, I like that.
We kind of landed there
I
on
like
the
the wood
north end
look of
too.
it too.
Yeah.
I like the simplicity.
There's no space for mechanical systems in that.
It's better for solar.
He's giving me a hard
Sorry,
time.
I get that.
Yeah.
Give my.
So what I like that we did at the north end and what you did on the expensive gable option is the tall part in the middle, like the lookout or whatever we called it there. And it looks like you could do something where you
We're not calling it a silo.
or it's not a silo, it's,
The square size on the side.
but it looks like you could do that here as well to like kind
Well, you sort of
accentuate
have
the-
something like that on the white one, don't you?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
so like that piece
Yeah, so
of
that
it
piece
with
right at
that
the
walkway and
entrance,
everything.
Yeah, that lantern,
Lantern, okay. Now we're calling it.
I don't know. That's-
It sounded like it, yeah. Artsy
We'll
term.
come up
Sounds
with
less
something.
than a town.
How about all the wood? What's the, did you guys want all the wood? Remember somebody who had an issue with all the wood?
Well, I know that there was real concern expressed about maintenance on all the wood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I think that if we can,
we would look for a different material.
yeah, we like the I don't know. The contrast is nice, but I'm sure there's other materials you could use other than natural wood. But I'm trying to be careful here. And I said in my email that I was talking strictly for myself.
Yeah, yeah.
I was never trying to communicate from the committee itself.
All you really need to solve is to have the left side talk to the right side. From my perspective.
Well, and you did that well with the white one, you know, that main part of the building really becomes prominent.
Go to the white one.
Just with the admin.
Yeah, well, you have the other view that, where you're looking
Yeah,
more,
with the field.
yeah. I mean, that, you drive up and clearly that's the main building.
Okay. So this aesthetic, this material palette applied to this building, are we doing the planimetric modifications in order to get the site plan that we had showed, which addressed, I think, the comments that were born outside of this, so if
Those being the change of the road and everything?
if you go to the site plan, I just wanna make sure we're crystal clear on the floor plan.
It looks like you can do that with the old plan.
Well, this is the old plan, we just
No, that's the
rotated,
new plan.
we just rotated this side of it. So, do we wanna do this or not?
Well, but
Your forks are
go
closer
back
in.
to the previous site plan. Why couldn't you move the road and shift the building to the right?
So, we can shift the building to the right, but the main entry is right here right now, so if we shift it to the right, which absolutely we can do, you'll be looking at, if you shifted it the width of that, you'll be looking at the entry to the cafeteria. Is that, make sense?
That would get you your green area up by the school still?
We would have to,
Yeah.
to slide it and shift it, I think, because the area that we kind of, we took is, I think, right there, isn't it? It's north of the
right
building.
here. Right there.
On that one, you have the service part of the building towards the south end. You're moving it to the north end, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's
Can't you take that,
It's actually-
shift that up there?
Oh, it's bigger than that. Isn't it? Yeah, it's like that.
No, it's, slightly different scale. Whoops.
Different scale.
Look at the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we parked that corner of the building back at the line of the setback. So it'd have to shift back into the right. We can take this plan and do that. Okay. Is that, well, I wanna make sure we leave with definitive direction.
So we don't wanna do this.
Tough to say.
Without looking at the floor plan,
Yeah,
can't tell you.
might be a better floor plan.
So,
I
Do
still
we need
like
to
the
have
drive
this-
coming around the right side and not through the play area, but that's me.
you like this?
Yeah, I mean, if you kept the floor plan as is, can you still do the drive as you show?
Yeah.
I don't see why you couldn't. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
And that
especially
would
if
leave
this
you,
starts
that would leave
to-
that area for you to put that grassy area up by the school on the far left now.
Yeah, as Dennis said, I can't really tell because I haven't seen what the floor plan looks like. I like having that field up next to the school.
Yeah, and then I guess the only other, and I'm not sure whose comments these were, we were trying to address the, that was
One woman.
BOE
Yeah.
comment, no, we heard it at the BOE too, I think, a couple times, so maybe not.
Yeah, I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. I mean, if that works programmatically, you know, that you wanna change that, fine. But I don't think that that's a major issue for most of the people I've talked to. You know, you're looking at it from above, you're never gonna see it that way, you're always gonna see it from down at ground level.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure if we do up and to the right, that you'll be looking, when you drive in, you'll be looking at cafeteria entry, just making sure.
Yeah, I mean, I had said in my email that, you know, because that classroom wing sticks down, that it tends to take a certain prominence. And, you
Yeah.
know, if you were shifting the building up a little bit or something so that it was kind of more straight apart, but I'm not gonna get into any of that at this point, you know, I just wanna get closure.
Yeah, and also if you're a parent and you're parking, you park your car, you're gonna know where the front entrance is, regardless of how it aligns. And same thing with the kids getting dropped off the bus, they're gonna know what door to get in.
Right, I'm not arguing against this, this parking likely stays where it is, and the distance between the parking and the entries is
Greater.
going to be greater.
Yeah, that's
all.
okay.
It's,
Well, I think that you did some really nice things in the design you showed us today, which has more green space in the front, has the field on the side. I mean, there were some real positives to the changes that you made.
yeah, I don't disagree with you, I thought it worked a little better, and, you know, these wings here didn't change at all programmatically, it just
Right, you just,
straight
the
out.
angles on them, which I don't really care one way or the other. You know, it'll be, when you're walking down the hallway, you'll have a certain angle you'll walk over, or maybe less of an angle, but that's
Yeah.
about it.
It's pretty slight as far as the experience.
For the building committee, do you have schematic plans that you worked out this footprint that they could take a
Oh,
look
yeah.
at?
Yeah, they're, absolutely. I think if that's what's needed in order to make a decision, which I understand, then we'll provide those, certainly, absolutely.
Yeah, it would, frankly, if we could have had them done for this meeting, you would see them.
Yeah.
So,
I'm hearing two different discussions though. I'm hearing the aesthetic from a ground view, and I'm hearing a site plan discussion. And it seemed like there's a lot of positive feedback with the site plan. It's just that it's the floor plans that leave a question mark. But the way the road comes in, that seems to be well received by everyone, right? The green space in front seems to be well received, the two fields seem to be well received.
Right.
So, you know, but we've already said, oh, you know, we've already given an approval towards that floor plan, not that it can't change, but is there any way that that building footprint works with site, with this new site layout?
You mean the old building footprint?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think we're trying to say.
Well, yeah, it certainly does. You would just be looking at a different portion of the building when you come in, that's all. See, when you don't So this building, obviously, if you go back to the previous plan, is longer that way. So when you turn it that way, right, so this is obviously wider. So you can certainly move this over, and that's what you will see. You will see the cafeteria entry.
Yeah, but what do you see when you drive into the North End School?
What do you see when you drive into the north end school? Depends on what entry you drive into. Probably the main entry. Tower? I would think you would see that, yeah.
I think you see the entire school, frankly.
Well, you see the large volumes.
It's a different site, yeah, it's much more open, you're up on a hill, you're 40 feet up on the road.
Yeah, the point being, you don't have to align with the front entrance to be able to know where you're going.
Oh, no, I didn't say that. I'm just making sure that you know what you'll see, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you have to look at the entry. Yeah.
Is there any chance that you can get something to us substantially before the next meeting that we can send out and get feedback for you? I mean, I'd hate to be sitting here 2 weeks from now having the same kind of conversation.
So, I guess we
I
need
really
to.
want to bring closure to this at the
Yeah.
next meeting.
Yeah. I think-
Rich, would it make sense to meet next Thursday?
It's fine with me if that's what, but I don't know whether you can have something for us.
Yeah, it depends on, so are we leaving the plan as is, shifting it up, and then changing the aesthetic on the outside? Is that of the version on 914 that we presented?
I think the comment was that we couldn't assess the new one without seeing what it does to the floor plan.
Sure.
So
So we can get your floor plan.
so that's, you know, am I hearing that correct? Yeah. So that, you know, we couldn't say, yeah, go with the new floor plan without seeing what it does internally.
Yeah, that's fair.
To how things are laid out.
Absolutely. Yep.
Justin, can you put up the old site plan? Okay, so if you were to keep the plan as is, but the committee, they like the access road to the right, that could be done as is, right? You're talking about maybe moving it over to the right and up. Does that get you the green space that the committee likes up in the upper left-hand corner, closer to the building?
Should.
So can you take the site plan from the new part with the green space in the upper left-hand corner and apply it to this?
You can, you have to move the building up and to the right.
Up and to the right, but the floor plan could stay as is,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's what we were just, so if you take this corner
Yeah,
and just pull it up to there, you know, you shift it over, you know, whatever, that much.
right.
Yeah, I think you'll achieve the same thing, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
For me, that's what I would like to see, is to keep the same floor plan we had, move it like you just said, show the green space, the road on the right, change the stuff that's change the materials that we looked at on the face. That's what's in my head.
Can you flip the utility piece to the upper corner too, to give you more space for that green?
Not without a servery, I mean, I guess you could rotate the servery and utility and make it more square than linear. You know what I'm saying?
I thought that whole bar was a survey and utility.
This is servery, this is utility, so you could put like utility
Oh,
over
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then
Server,
you
what
would
I'm
get
saying.
something,
Yeah,
get more,
gotcha.
more green space, and that's kind of what that other plan did, a
Yeah.
little bit of, but not, you know. So you could do that.
So let me just ask a question, if I may. Are there any programmatic benefits to the new floor plan layout that you would say are things that we should look at that are gonna be as a benefit to the staff or to the students? Should we look at a new floor, should we look at that new floor plan because it's better for, as a school?
So the size, you know, the program didn't change, like the size of the gym, all that stuff stayed the same. The shift
the impetus for the shift was to free up space over on this side of the building. So, two things, to free up that space, because we heard that comment, and to take some of the kinks out, because we heard that comment. So, in order to take the kinks out, when you soften that angle, it opens up more space in here. So, all right, we need more programming to put in there. And then, so that meant, and I needed to free up space here. So when you do that, it's, all right, I got a couple more boxes I can put in there. So we did that. And then I gotta take this out of here, so we put that back there. And that's essentially the extent of the changes. Everything else, all of this, all of this, all of this, all of that stayed the same. This came around back. I think it has a lot of good qualities because I don't know what it is. Oh, there you go.
What, you had that all along?
Well, I mean, look at it. I mean, it's not polished, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
I like the colors.
admin, nurse, media, art, music, bathrooms, gym. So you had like community entrance if you needed it with bathrooms so they could be locked off. There was an entrance exit here for gym. Then you have your stage, some storage, your servery kitchen, cafeteria, so they have direct access out to the back. And if they wanted to come out this door, you know, it's a 30-foot hallway, they could come out and use this playfield there. So the benefit operationally is definitely there because we heard a lot about these two spaces getting access to different kinds of play. So we could put play scapes back there and then have open field play here. So it gives them multiple options from both of these spaces. It puts your eyes in control on the entire site, and everything else stays the same. So this bar is the same bar it always was. The music, the arts,
You know, the cafeteria becomes a nicer space because you've got glazing on the north side, whereas before it was kind of like,
yeah,
it was
same
landlocked.
It quite honestly, in this to answer your question, Dennis, was, I mean, this definitely is a better proportion for that space, no doubt, with the stage there. And I think quite honestly, it gives you some more flexibility to have different kinds of arrangements of spaces, but the other arrangements worked, you know, fine too. There's definitely some benefits here. But the rest, you know, from more or less here over, it's the same building. What we were trying to do was set up some proportions for pitch groups, right? We were trying to set up like these bays, you know, because you don't want to have a gable on like a 60-foot wide wall because it's going to go up forever. So we were trying to get these, you know, classrooms 30 by 30. So you put 30 with the gable, it's not up as high. So that gave you what Ernest was showing with those nice pitches. That's how we did that. So.
And just to state the obvious though, I mean, you set that up so you can get the gables to work, but this plan works without gables.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, you know, in my mind, I'm wondering if there's like somewhere in between, like we have a gable, we have a little bit of a nod to a gable. I don't know how that works with that aesthetic that we were showing that we need to modify, but if we can somehow do that, then I understand we work for the building committee, but there's also a lot of pressures that we're getting emails from other people that are pretty significant people in the community. And if this committee decides not to address their concerns, that's fine. I just want to make sure we've fully vetted them, certainly. We certainly looked at all their comments. That's where we say. I
From
understand.
my point of view, at this point, anyone who's wanted some input has had a chance to get
Sure.
input.
Yep.
And now it's up to this committee to make
Yep.
decisions.
Yep.
And if people in the community aren't happy with those decisions, then they can complain to our committee later. We gotta move on. We've heard from various people.
So, Chuck, to your Well, the last piece, just servery and utility, you can tuck it around the corner, you have much more buffer space, so we were also trying to address the residential comments, or the comments from the community conversations.
Does anybody have any comments about this floor plan, or is it still too preliminary?
I think it works pretty well.
Other than the stage, I think the stage would work better on the long side of the gym rather than up center on the short side. That's why I like the other layout better.
I don't know, typically, is a stage on the wider or the narrower side?
Seen them done both ways.
Yeah.
You know,
We've been showing all of them on the wider, so that you could have, say, an all-school assembly with
Right.
a portion of your students in the retractable bleachers. But you're absolutely right, most of your elementary schools right now, the stage is on the short end of the gym, because that's how we used to do it 75 years ago, 60 years ago, 50 years ago.
My point of view, I look at this and I balance the amount of use of the stage and the amount of times that you would wish it was on the other wall for an elementary school versus the amount of times you're gonna benefit from having that cafeteria where it is and having the access to, that you have. I think it's my 2 cents. I think this gives more frequent tangible benefit.
As an ex-elementary principal, I could make it work either way. Doing whole school assemblies and stuff like that. As you say, you'll have the risers on the side, people will be sitting, looking sideways, but, that's about it. Most of the time, you're bringing the kids in and sitting on the floor.
or in chairs, yeah.
Well, parents would sit on chairs, we never gave the kids.
Right. The other thing, as Jeff mentioned, that this kind of starts to set up is a pretty strong kind of community or after-hours partitioning of the space. Which you still had in the other scheme, but this is much more direct. I mean, you can have, this area that eventually gets to the gym and the cafeteria is a much more direct access.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's my take on that. I mean, we all like the old floor plan.
I'm fine with that.
That's my 10 cents.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The only thing different would be if you could do that, what you were talking about with the flipping the server in the utility room, so that you could get that green space there, but.
So on the site plan discussion, we're saying we can make it work either way, with either floor plan, correct? We can make that new layout work with either floor plan?
Yes, I think we can. Just gotta test it.
So as a committee, do we want to say whether or not we like this, so at least they can kind of have a piece of a marching order?
Well, I'm hearing, how do other people feel? We have 2 people who say, we approve the original plan, let's stay with the original plan.
The original floor plan. I'm
Original
saying
floor.
the site plan with the original floor plan, where the fields are, where the green space is. It seemed like, at least I thought I heard everybody seemed to.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing, that people like the site plan, but they would rather just stay with the original floor plan, if
Yeah.
that works. Is that what everyone is saying there?
So floor plan discussion wise, so site plan, that's what we're talking about right now, site plan, we're not talking about the aesthetics at all. this site plan. We all seem to agree with that approach, the original floor plan that we had previously approved with the new site plan as best you can, having those fields on either side, the green space in front.
And then
Switching
we're
the road.
And switching the road,
Switching the
yeah.
road, right, putting the field up there. And then the exterior of the building, you're staying not with the one that we saw today, the white one, but the one previous, but making changes to the exterior materials and trying to make that a little more traditional looking. But basically staying with that layout. Is that where we're at?
Sounds right, yeah.
Dennis?
Yeah.
I agree with that. Now, Jeff or Justin, with what we're asking you for, tweaking the other layout, that's not gonna affect floor plan necessarily, right? I guess what I'm saying is we don't, we want you to start to be able to move forward. We want you to start to be able to move forward, obviously, with the DD.
What's that?
You're gonna be looking at the utility room when you drive in. I think if you move that, I think that utility room could still go up to the upper top. Because you have that as a utility marked on the floor plan anyway. And the lower part's the storage room.
Yeah, and rotate the field. Magic.
Yeah, cut and paste the road.
Done? Okay.
Do the aesthetics affect your ability to proceed with other parts of design development, the stuff we're working on the outside?
Yes,
It does.
we've gotta do wall sections, start mocking out details, developing the interior space. Yeah, it does. Yep.
Is it about that size field that you're moving around, Justin? Is that what we need for the 60 wells, 62 wells, or would it be more than that for the geothermal? About the size of that field?
They're on offset 20-foot grids, right?
Yeah, 20 by 20 staggered.
It's not necessary that they go entirely under the field.
No?
Well, the whole thing is you only got that much space between the old building and the new building.
Yeah, but you still have the area up going north towards the wetland buffer to work too.
Yeah.
So, I think you have plenty of room. You know, if you had 55 by 10, that's 20, excuse me, that's 80 by 180. That's the linear footage, I mean, that's square.
That's what you need.
Yeah, that's a bare minimum, then if you had 10 feet around that, so maybe 90 by 190, then you can do all the wells. Make it simple, 20,000 square feet, 100 by 200.
Well, we don't know what size that field is.
I think, you say 100 by 200?
Yeah.
Okay, the field's 100.
I think it's bigger. It should be able to host that.
Okay.
Okay.
We okay?
Are we doing more to the outside than just like, so this view here, there's actually some, it's more than just finishes and some aesthetic treatments. We're looking at some other things as well, some different roof looks and that sort of stuff. Or are we just looking at taking this and putting some finishes or changing the brand and changing the colors and arranging?
Is that,
Question.
It's that,
I'm not,
Because I'm thinking,
We'll do whatever-
if we're just
yeah.
doing aesthetics, the reason I was asking, if we're just,
Yeah.
well, I want you guys to be able to move on to DD and start working on it, but you're saying you can't, and that to me sounds like it's more than rearranging the brick face and the facades, it sounds like
well,
you're
we
doing
need to
some more
land on
significant
like
things.
where brick, where all the materials are and the shapes of things so that we can do enough in design development details so that they can price it more accurately. So, yeah, decisions like, is the canopy flat, pitched, or gabled, yeah, those are
I'm just
things
trying
that
not to
need
hold you up from
I think we're doing that
Forward.
canopy, right? And maybe something like that for the, I don't know, that's how it goes.
Well, that was my opinion on the canopy, I don't know that that was the committee's. The walkway? Did everybody agree with that? I don't want it to be Chris's
That
canopy.
makes sense.
Fine.
Okay.
People's sake is
Well, I
temporary.
mean, I do want to see that, I just don't want to say that publicly.
As long as it's
Chris's
as long as it's not a
school, Chris's
memorial
canopy.
canopy, you're okay, right?
It's in the minute.
Who did the design here? Chris did. It was all his doing. All right, guys, do you have enough direction for next time? And hopefully, next time we will have something we can put on there, approve, and anything else? Will we go to the order? And I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second. Second. All those in favor? Thank you very much, everyone.